It's voting day in America. Finally, after the most contentious, rancorous and rupturing campaign.
Hey, thanks for coming out, guys. Thank you so much.
The pitches are over, the rallies wrapped up, and now it's up to them to take America on its next course.
How does it feel? Who did you vote for, may I ask?
It was great. I'm a Democrat, so Kamala.
And do you think she's going to win?
Of course.
She's what we need right now in this world.
But then we meet Crystal, who, if you pardon the pun, crystallizes the very essence of this election and why it's so close.
Crystal, which way are you going to go? Trump, Harris, Harris, Trump.
Trump, all the way. I'm a good businesswoman. I feel as though Trump is a good businessman, and we want him for our economy.
What don't you like then about Kamala?
Well, Kamala, I don't appreciate her tactics on immigration. She wants us to support abortion, killing our children. That's not natural, and it's against the Bible. I think he's going to win.
He certainly hopes so. And in the early hours in Michigan last night, Trump sounded uncharacteristically wistful.
Special, this is my last rally. Can you believe it? The rallies, these big, beautiful rallies, there's never been anything like it. I think it caught on because our country's in trouble, and Joe and Kamala broke it, and I will fix it. I'll fix it fast.
Harris visited 5 cities in Pennsylvania yesterday and was leaving nothing to chance. Squeezing in some final personal appeals to the last persuadables, hoping they would be left persuaded. Particularly in this state, where the polling couldn't be tighter and the stakes any higher. And nearing midnight in the heart of Philadelphia, the big message to a crowd of some 30,000 standing, don't forget, right here in the cradle of American democracy.
This could be one of the closest races in history. Every single vote matters. And make no mistake, we will win.
Against a backdrop befitting a campaign that spent millions, Harris emphasized the historic choice before America.
Do we believe in the promise of America? And are we ready to fight for it?
We've reached the final night of the campaign. Thousands of people have gathered here to see Kamala Harris make her final pitch. Young, old, men, women, black, white, Latino. She's told them she wants to be a president for all America. The big question on the eve of the election is, has she done enough to pull it off? Do you think she can pull it off?
Absolutely, she has to. She will.
Is she going to pull it off? She will pull it off. And we're moving forward. We're moving forward.
Being here gives me a lot of hope that everything will be okay tomorrow.
I know she can win! I know she can win!
How are you feeling? You're moving.
I'm moving here, but I'm very, I will put in the words as the Harris campaign put it, nauseously optimistic.
She's energetic, and she's really stayed, I think, on brand and on message.
That brand, along with a lot of cash and even more hope, has taken Kamala Harris in a matter of weeks to the brink of the White House. A campaign forged in fire, but it might not be enough. And for Trump, are we witnessing the last of the YMCA wiggle? His campaign has risen from the ashes. He's skirted criminal convictions, 2 assassination attempts, and somehow managed to dance his way to an improbable comeback. Whichever way it goes, the outcome will be historic. Now it's up to them to choose and for the candidates to accept the result.
Well, it could all come down to voters, very noisy voters in the suburbs around places like Philadelphia and in all the suburbs around all of the critical swing states, and whether or not they, and women in particular, have bought Kamala Harris's message that this election is all about personal freedoms around democracy and abortion specifically, or whether or not they listen to Donald Trump and will be voting with their wallets or with their eye on the migrants crossing the border with Mexico. As you saw there, though, in my piece, even in Democrat-loving Philadelphia, people here do support Donald Trump. But even as I spoke to that voter, Crystal, I can tell you there was a plane above me dragging behind it a banner that said, "Please, Lord, Jesus, Lord, protect us from Trump." Certainly if he loses here in Pennsylvania, and that's what swings it for Harris, there are Republican poll watchers and MAGA extremists who are ready to pounce, to claim that Donald Trump's victory was stolen, just as they did in 2020. So that excitement, that joy you saw in the Harris final rally last night could very quickly give way to tension and perhaps worse.
Siobhan, I'll be speaking to you later in the programme. But with me now is staff writer for The Atlantic, Christine Ember, and JT Young, who's a political analyst and former congressional policy advisor. Welcome to you both. Very quickly, at the top of this interview, what are you going to be looking out for tonight? Christine, you first. The key thing.
I am going to be looking at voter polling as voters leave the stations and demographics, actually. I think what's most interesting about this election has been the gender divide and the demographic divide represented by the candidates. So will we see more women, massively more women turning out? Will we see young men actually showing up for Donald Trump? I think that'll give us some clues as to what's going to happen.
JT?
7 states, Matt, as you know. 7 battleground states have been in this election. They've decided 2020 and they decided 2016. In 2016, Trump won 6. In 2020, Biden won 6. And look at those 7 for this night.
And 2 of them will be calling quite early, so at 7 and 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. That'll be North Carolina and Georgia, the other way around. If they go for one or the other, does it make it much more difficult for the other candidate to win?
Yes. Yes, very much. North Carolina is the only state that Harris can hope to pull from Trump's column. She needs that state if she's going to make inroads into him. Otherwise, all the other 6 are on her terrain. And if Trump takes Georgia, he then has a path to getting the votes he needs here. Pennsylvania, I think, is the linchpin.
Christine, you're nodding?
Yeah, no, that seems exactly right. It's exciting for some, I would say, some who want to end their anxiety early, that North Carolina and Georgia will hopefully be reporting their results tonight. But I think everybody is still anxious about Pennsylvania with 19 electoral college votes. It's incredibly important to either candidate's path to victory, and it is a slow reporting state. So we will be waiting for a little while.
And we have normalized extraordinary things so quickly. I mean, the fact that Trump is a convicted felon, that he, called the big steal after the last election, the fact that Harris only entered the race just over 100 days ago after Biden quit. So we normalize stuff and we get used to it, but that shouldn't take away from the fact that this is an extraordinary election with extraordinary stakes, shouldn't it, Christine?
No, absolutely. And I actually think that in this election, we have seen a little bit less normalization perhaps towards the end because things have happened so quickly. Kamala Harris, as you mentioned, entered the race quite late, quite unexpectedly. And so I think perhaps that gave her a little bit of an advantage almost. She didn't have time to become as stale and boring as other candidates may have in the last, just
I think you dropped your mic there. Hang on a second. Yeah, okay. Oh no, just the fluffy bit. That's okay. We can carry on talking. That's not so important. JT, there are many people in this country, but also in Europe, who are frankly saying, how is it possible that Donald Trump is doing as well as he's done in the polls, and why should he be running at all when he actually questioned the last election and wasn't playing by the rules? That should really rule him out.
Matt, one other thing that's extraordinary about this race is, remember, Donald Trump had 2 assassination attempts as well. I cannot remember anything like that. As far as Donald Trump running, he's run 5 times now nationally. 3 times in the primaries, 2 in general. Trump's voters are extraordinarily loyal. They're tested, they will be there. And so him running strong in the polls is not surprising. And that he's running ahead of where he was in 16 and in 20, I think would be cause for concern with the Harris campaign.
And Christine, if Trump were to lose this election and accept the loss, accept the result, which is a big if, is that the end of him now, do you think?
I mean, first of all, let's say that would be a huge relief. I think one of the things that both citizens and election watchers are worried about is sort of interference either with the election or in reporting the results or in accepting the election. Just having him concede quietly would be incredible. But
which is an astonishing thing to say.
Which is incredible. I mean, we live in a democracy. We hope that is not what should be happening. But I do think that we can see that Trump is tired. You look at him at his rallies, you look at his age, frankly, and I don't think we see him coming up for another run. But that doesn't mean that the MAGA movement itself is dead.
But JT, people not conceding, that's what happens in banana republics, isn't it?
Well, I think there are always going to be questions about outcome. And remember, the last election in 2020, 4 states decided the outcome by 77,000 votes out of all the over 100 million votes cast. There are always going to be litigation. Both sides will be lawyered up.
But even Republican, officials who oversaw the polls said this is fair and square.
Yeah, and I think that...
And shouldn't he have not just accepted that? Because it sets such a dangerous precedent.
Well, and you look at it like this, Matt. If he had accepted January last year, we would not have an issue that we're talking about right now. He would be waltzing to this election. So I would think for him and for everyone else, the argument on the Republican side would be that you need for the good of the party to accept the results.
Christine, just finally, one of the big issues with Hillary Clinton and possibly with Kamala Harris is that there are millions of Americans, let's say roughly half the country, men as well, who don't feel that she speaks to them. She said last night in Philadelphia she's going to unify the country. Can she actually do that were she to win?
I think that remains to be seen, but one thing about her campaign so far is that she actually has not focused on the things that divide her from men around the country. Unlike Hillary Clinton in 2016, she didn't make being a woman the selling point of her campaign. She talked about how she was strong on security. She talked about the economy. So she is trying to actually, I think, tamp down those differences and reach across the board.
Okay, thank you very much. We will get back to you at some stage in the week, I'm sure. Christine Ember, JT Young, thanks to both of you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Now, even before the voting began, Donald Trump had been casting doubt, as we just heard, on whether the election will be fair, claiming that the Democrats are already cheating. Of course, he never conceded defeat in 2020 with the infamous Stop the Steal campaign and the insurrection of January the 6th. Back then, Trump launched a campaign of lawsuits, even calling election officials, asking them, allegedly, to find more votes. Well, this time around, the Republicans are even more organized, as Kieran Woodley has been finding out.
They are fighting so hard to steal this damn thing.
Even before the votes are counted.
If we can keep that cheating down, because they're a bunch of cheats.
Donald Trump is sowing the seeds of doubt.
Because they've already started cheating in Lancaster, they've cheated.
Claiming that the Democrats are cheating him out of victory.
They cheat on elections, and you call them on it, and they want to put you in jail. Think about it.
Well, from 80.
And it's not just on the campaign trail where the disinformation is being spread.
We're voting Kamala Harris.
This is a fake video that's gone viral, showing what is claimed to be Haitians saying they were voting for Kamala Harris in Georgia.
So let's see what we have here.
And another fake video claims to show a poll worker ripping up ballots for Donald Trump. Despite the FBI saying these videos were created by Russian actors to spread misinformation, among the Trump faithful, the damage may have already been done.
I've heard in some locations that there are attempts to register non-citizens.
Some Republicans are already questioning this election. And the majority already think Joe Biden didn't win the last one. So Barbara has been training fellow Republicans to be poll watchers, people to observe the votes being counted on Election Day and try to flush out any irregular activity.
The poll watching is important because at the end of the day, it's important to always have eyes on the process. If no one's watching, then there's far more opportunity for problems to occur.
Poll watching is just one part of a huge operation Republicans have put in place ready to question the results if they think there is foul play, with an election integrity project preparing lawyers to challenge in court.
Tell me a bit about the Election Integrity Project and what it entails.
It entails us watching the process, right? We are deeply involved in the process, but as observers. If anything goes wrong, then we have lawyers and we have a crew that would deal with any kind of irregularities that were to occur.
So you think there is fraud going on there, possibly?
I don't know if there's fraud or not fraud, but I think the process.
Was there fraud at the last election?
The process is not
Was
transparent.
there fraud at the last election?
The process was not transparent.
Was there fraud at the last election?
I can't speak to that, but I can tell you.
The Republican Integrity Project is there because lots of people believe there was fraud at the last election.
Look, if we lose, we lose, right? That's how this works. But if we lose and you hide the votes and you've got things going on in the middle of the night and you're transferring boxes in the dark of night and taping up windows so people can't see what's going on.
That means
inside,
you do question the 2020 result.
I'm not questioning the result. I'm questioning the process.
Trump has still never conceded the 2020 election, and with his supporters making so much noise about that result and already raising questions about this one, election officials have to be ready for the Trump convoy.
Hey, how you doing?
So welcome to a new type of vote counting office. There's plenty of security and plenty of transparency.
So this is a brand new building. It was designed after 2020, and it was really designed with the 2020 election in mind.
The Broward County Supervisor of Elections headquarters cost £80 million, the price for trying to reassure election skeptics.
And what we're standing in is called the Transparency Corridor. So this is a public space. So right now, you know, this is a space that the public could come and walk through here. You'll be able to see what's going on, but you wouldn't be able to interfere in that process at all.
Joe Scott shows me round the building, where poll watchers and the public can witness every stage of the process, as his team counts ballots for more than 1 million registered voters.
I want people to actually know how it actually works, so that if you do have a critique, if there is something we could do better, at least it'll be a thoughtful critique. This election will probably be the best election we've ever had. It won't be perfect. I don't know if we'll ever get to perfect, but we are constantly improving and constantly getting better. And it's a heck of a lot better than not having elections.
Do you think the people who are critiquing it want perfection, or they just want to win?
They just want to win, and that's very clear. So that's what makes it so dangerous when our politicians talk bad about the election system. They choose to use the election system as an excuse for why they lost the election. And it is just damaging to democracy.
And the undermining of the process has a real-life effect on election workers across the country, like Joe.
Have you faced threats at all?
There have been, yeah. There have been some threats that have come in. There have been things that have been investigated by the FBI. And
does that weigh on you?
Honestly, it's something that I think about. We've beefed up the security at my home.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. We've definitely beefed up our security.
Accountability, integrity.
Before the sound of ballots being counted, the sound of democracy in action.
I'm tired of people selling out our city.
Despite the fear-mongering around this election, millions are eagerly casting their vote, believing that the system works.
This is the United States. Things are usually pretty fair. There's obviously some people that might be upset about the result, but I have faith in the system.
Do you believe the election will be fair?
Yeah, absolutely, yes, absolutely. I believe in this country, and I haven't seen any sign of things like the things we are escaping from in Latin America. The elections are going to be fair, and I trust the process.
But there are some for whom the disinformation has cut through, and there are inklings of doubt.
Do you believe that every vote will be counted in this election?
I believe so. I mean, there might be some tampering with it.
You think there will be, yeah?
It could be. It could be. But hopefully it'll stay honest.
Election day is meant to be the last shout of citizens to say who they want in charge. But the back and forth over this race may continue for days or even weeks to come.
Now, Donald Trump will host his election night party in the building behind me. But what happens on election night doesn't necessarily stay on election night. Because if those polls in those swing states, if they are that close when it comes to the results, we could see in the hours and days ahead, we could see audits, we could see recounts, we could see lawsuits. Because remember, Republicans and Democrats, they're both lawyered up when it comes to this election, and they are ready to go. And here's the thing which worries some election experts. It's that once those votes are all tabulated, they have to be certified by election boards across the country by December, and then it goes to Congress, who confirm the president-elect on January 6th. Remember that date. And here's the thing. Since 2020, Republicans have put election deniers, election skeptics on those election boards. And in those last 4 years, more than 30 election officials have denied or delayed the certification of election results in local areas, claiming fraud. What if that happens again this year? In those weeks, they delay, they deny. What would happen then? Would the misinformation go
going around in an incredibly febrile atmosphere. Now, Donald Trump, he voted today just down the road, and he was asked about election integrity and whether he would concede if he lost. Here's what he said.
People who are concerned that you didn't concede the election in 2020 when you lost, they're concerned that if you lost this election, you wouldn't concede again. What do you say to those people?
I think they're crazy. If I lose an election, if it's a fair election, I'd be the first one to acknowledge it.
So Donald Trump there saying he would concede, which he didn't do last time, but he might not even have to because he could still win this comfortably. We'll find out all about that in the hours and days ahead.